gentleman on line one who I appreciated. I had difficulty at my end trying to get a hold of him. He is the senior writer for ESPN.com and has been with ESPN since the year 2000. He covers the NBA, and we've got a great Western New York story to share with you. Ladies and gentlemen, Marc Stein, thank you for joining.
How you doing, pal?
Doing well, man, doing well. First of all, how was the game last night in Oakland? You covered intently and intensely.
Well, first game of the season. Anytime you get to come to Oakland, it's usually a good show. The crowd here is known as being as raucous as any in North America. Ring night here, first championship for the Warriors in 40 years, and they were amped, and they were treated to a Steph Curry show, 24 points in the first quarter. He had 40 after three. Obviously could have had more. Finished with 40, but he was sensational in full flow from game one. So a lot of joy out here, as you can imagine, as I'm sure there would be.
Absolutely. Marc Stein from ESPN.com. He's the senior writer. Covers the NBA. Has been since the year 2000. Going into the next question, I had a very interesting experience. I was sitting down covering the game for WJJL. Usually I sit next to the stats guy for MSG Network. Very standard. And I watch the game intently. I lean over. I look at everything that's going on out on the ice. And sure enough, this gentleman sits next to me, puts down a BlackBerry water bottle, and just watches the game the same way pretty much as I was, or so I thought I was, and it turns out it was Marc Stein of ESPN. And could you discuss more about your favorite NHL team?
Yeah, well, don't tell on me because I was in the press box as a fan, and you're not really supposed to do that. But so don't turn me in. But no, it was a huge treat for me. Circumstances conspired to allow me to sneak to Buffalo last Wednesday night for the game against the Leafs. I lived in Olean, New York, from age 3 to age 9.
Wow.
My younger brother was actually born in Olean, so he's even more Western New York than me. And it was long enough to become a lifelong Sabres fan. It was right in the heart of the glory days. The team was new, and I fell in love with the Sabres instantly. I was a huge Buffalo Braves and Buffalo Sabres fan. The year that the Braves met their demise was the year that we moved to Southern California. We actually moved to Southern California with the Braves.
Wow, yep.
But I remained a Sabres fan for life, and still follow them. I've got Eichel fever just like anybody else, so the chance to actually get over there and see him with my own eyes. I'm going to see the Sabres again in Dallas, which is where I'm based now. I'll see them again next month. They're in Dallas. But I wanted to come see a home game, and it's really hard for me to get back just because of, obviously, I've been doing the NBA for almost a quarter century, so the schedules are concurrent. Something really lucky has to happen in my favor for me to be able to get back, but the schedule worked out, and I was able to go and see him, and I was quite excited.
Yes, as was I. I was almost jumping out of my skin, even though I had to be as non-biased as possible to cover any sort of game or matchup. But that was you had a good treat for you. A 3-on-3 overtime and a shootout and a victory by the Buffalo
and a
Sabres.
win, which has been hard to come by early in the season. But then late last night, I get to my room. Had to see some people after the game. It was a very long game with the ring ceremony.
Yeah.
Finally got to, it must have been, 2 West Coast time, flip on the TV and see the top 10 highlights on SportsCenter. I get to see that amazing Ennis goal. Don't know how that was only number 6 on the top 10. Saw Chad Johnson save and another OT win, so that was nice. Didn't mind that either.
Marc Stein from ESPN.com, senior writer for the covering the NBA's in the Thomas Loop Radio Show on AM 1440. This will be edited and cut and replayed on thethomasloop.com, my main site. 3-on-3 hockey. It's the first time I've seen it live. What did you think of it?
I really like it. I think it's a great change. I think fans want excitement. I think one of the maybe complaints about regular season hockey is that it's getting too tight, too defensive, that that teams don't just let it all go. So I think that overtime format over the long haul, I think people already like it, but I was glad to get the free hockey, and as the way that it looked like all night, like the Sabres were just not going to score and not going to get to overtime. But the way it all worked out, I was really happy. I wanted to see it, and I'm really glad that I got to see it live.
Oh, it was great. It was definitely a treat. Definitely a treat. Marc Stein, got a question for you regarding a favorite NHL player of all time, which is my favorite NHL player of all time. And you got to see him in the early years, and I got to see him for the first time when I was 11. That's about 29 years ago. And that name is Gilles Perreault.
Yeah, I don't think that's a shocking choice for anyone from that era, because he was, when you really think about it, Buffalonians were just so lucky in those days.
Yeah.
Bob McAdoo playing for the Braves, O.J. Simpson playing for the Bills, even though Joe Ferguson was my favorite, far and away my favorite Bill. I love Joe Ferguson. But then to have not just the French connection, but Gilles Perreault, one of the greatest players of all time, playing in this little small part of the world, and you've got three just absolute all-timers playing, and it was, as a kid, it just, regular, whatever the sport is, we've got a superstar, but I'm still a little kid. If you could peek into my home office, I think I've actually tweeted a picture of this at some stage along the line, but if you could peek into my home office, I've got all kinds of Sabres memorabilia all over the place, including a Gilles Perreault figurine, which I'm probably a little bit too old to be having that out displayed, but I can't help it. I love him, and what can you say? If you were around in those days, I have to think he's everybody's favorite Sabre. I have to say Don Edwards runs a very close second to me, or 1A. For some reason, I loved Don Edwards for all the great goaltenders that the Sabres have had over the years, and obviously they've had, a string of all-star / Hall of Fame type talent play that position. Don Edwards, I just absolutely loved as well. I
would say that too, as well as Dominik Hasek. When I was there covering the banner ceremony for his number retirement, and I immediately reverted to the late 80s, early 90s when he was first, introduced into the Buffalo area and then become a starter. And I immediately thought, as a high school kid, of how great a goalie he really was. And, like you said, to have that every day in a small part of the world, like you said before, is just remarkable. I'm grateful to have seen that over the years.
I'm sure the Buffalo News has probably done this at some stage, but just you could literally come up with 10 or 15 goaltenders that have just been top class.
He's Marc Stein. One parting question. You are constantly on the grind. I got a preview of it, and you said you had the opportunity to get the game when we were in press row, and you sought it, you got it, and you just pretty much lucked out. It was all coincidence, seemingly. What is the culture of your job, senior NBA writer on ESPN.com? Describe the culture. For example, yesterday covering the game, you're on your way out to a flight today, but what's it like? Does it ever let up?
No, and look, I don't want to make it sound like it's the most demanding job in the world, because I also know I'm the luckiest person in the world. I really feel that way. I'm living a dream doing this job, to basically have been able to spend a lifetime covering the NBA now. This is my 22nd or 23rd season. I got a job covering the NBA really young, and it's what I wanted. And once it worked out, I was never going to let go. But I have a number of different roles, so it really just depends on what the role is that day. Yesterday, I was covering the game for SportsCenter, but also during the game, I was the sideline reporter for ESPN Radio's broadcast. So pre-game, there were SportsCenter hits to do. During the game, I'm on live radio as the sideline guy the whole game. After the game, back to TV mode. My primary job, though, is NBA insider, chasing news. You probably saw a little bit of that. I never really put the phone down, so I'm always, looking for stories, trying to break stories. Right. The appetite for who's getting fired, who's getting getting hired, who's getting traded, who's getting cut, where is there dissension, that whole, the appetite for that in the NBA is off the charts. It's always been big, but fans have never been hungrier for that stuff. So that's what keeps me in business. But again, I would never complain. I know how lucky I am.
He's Marc Stein, who works for ESPN.com, senior writer, as well as all facets of media, TV, print, social media. And I want to thank you very much for your time here. All the best to you the rest of the season.
My pleasure, man. Hopefully that wasn't the last time we sit together.
Hey, man, I hear you. Thanks again. Marc Stein.